If within 20 seconds you don't feel a thrill of recognition, you can close this video. The wisdom of Thoth warns that there are 5 secrets that, once discovered, should never be revealed. I won't tell you what they are now. First, I'll prove to you that you already carry one of them. Do this with me. Think about the last time you had a great idea or a profound realization about life. Remember the almost uncontrollable urge to tell everyone, to share that light. Now Kenna, feel what happened afterward. The incomprehension, the blank stares, the feeling that your experience was diminished by being put into words. Feel that echo of frustration. There you go. You've just touched the first and most dangerous portal of awakening. It's the trap where 99% of people fall and lose their power. You've already received the first delivery, proof that silence has a power you never understood. Now that you've felt it, I'll show you why this urge to speak is a trap set to weaken you. Later, I'll reveal why your spiritual success map is poison to others. And only when you're ready will I reveal the 5 forbidden secrets, one by one, including the most dangerous of all, which involves the very nature of reality. Stay with me, because understanding just one of these secrets in isolation doesn't work and can be dangerous. If you've ever felt like you know something you can't tell anyone, comment below. I keep the secret. Protection is in full sequence. Let's begin. After your first glimpse of truth, your most human impulse is to shout your discovery to the world. You want to describe the light, the freedom, the escape from the mental prison everyone lives in. But it's precisely at this point that you fall into the first trap. Trying to explain an experience that transcends logic with ordinary words is futile. Your words become empty, and your truth, misunderstood, dies before it can even be heard. Worse than being misunderstood is the division you create. By positioning yourself as the one who has seen the light, you automatically cast others into the shadows. Unintentionally, you build a pedestal and isolate yourself, betraying the essence of awakening, which is unity. Your generous act becomes an act of separation, strengthening the spiritual hierarchy of the enlightened and the ignorant that you supposedly overcame. This desire to share feeds the most subtle trap of all, the spiritual ego. It masquerades as wisdom and compassion, but secretly feeds on admiration and guru status. The ego you thought you'd left behind has simply changed clothes, now donning a cloak of spiritual superiority. You're no longer liberating others. You're using spirituality to validate your new, fragile identity. By insisting on describing your experience, you set a dangerous pattern. If your journey was an explosion of ecstasy, those who experienced a silent revelation may feel inferior. You turn a cosmic and personal event into a competition, limiting the infinite ways consciousness can manifest. Your light, instead of inspiring, ends up overshadowing and invalidating the light of others, creating doubt where there should be certainty. True wisdom lies not in talking about the light, but in becoming the light itself. Your peace and your new way of responding to challenges become the lesson. People don't need your description of the door. They need to feel the warmth emanating from you. But this attention you attract is only the beginning of the danger. The real risk arises with the next question everyone will ask, a question that could transform your path into a new maze. People will see your peace and ask the inevitable question, how did you do it? They don't want your philosophy. They want your map, a concrete step-by-step guide to replicating your success. They'll ask for your books, your techniques, your secrets. The question is sincere, but your answer may be the most damaging thing you can offer. A poison disguised as medicine. Giving away your map is an invitation to failure. Your key was forged by your unique story and won't open anyone else's lock. Offering your path to someone else plants the seeds of comparison and doubt. You condemn them to follow paths that will lead nowhere, guaranteeing only frustration and the feeling that they're not good enough to achieve what you've achieved. By offering a method, you turn awakening into a race with a never-ending finish line. Spirituality becomes a to-do list, reinforcing the idea that peace lies in the future after taking the right steps. But awakening isn't a destination to be reached. It's the recognition of where you already are. Your map, however useful it may have been, only points to the past and distracts from the only moment that matters, the present. You become an external authority that prevents the person from finding their own inner power. By giving instructions, you prevent them from learning to navigate their inner terrain and listen to their own intuition. The goal of awakening is soul sovereignty, not dependence on a guru or a method. Your silence about your path forces the other to find their own voice and their own truth. Your path may be someone else's maze. A technique that saved you may be detrimental to them. You are not the doctor of another's soul, and trying to be one is arrogance. True service is trusting that everyone has their own inner guide. However, there is an even more subtle danger than offering your map: the temptation to directly interfere in others' journeys, an impulse that can destroy the lifeblood of those you most want to help. As the veil of illusion lifts, you begin to see the world and its people with disconcerting clarity. It's as if you've been given X-ray glasses for your soul. Suddenly, the masks people wear daily become transparent. You see the deep fear behind your boss's arrogance. You feel the crushing loneliness behind a friend's happy social media posts. You perceive the pain of a wounded child behind a parent's anger and criticism. This insight isn't judgmental. It's accompanied by an overwhelming wave of compassion. Your heart breaks when you see the suffering people carry, often without even knowing it. And with this compassion comes an almost irresistible temptation to help, to intervene, to be the savior. You have the truth. You see what's wrong. You know what they need to do to free themselves. You feel a powerful urge to sit down with that person and say, "Look, this anger isn't yours. It's your father's pain you're carrying. Let it go." You want to point out the truth, expose the wound, so it can finally heal. But this is where ancient wisdom whispers one of its most difficult and crucial lessons. Trying to save someone by pointing to truths they're not yet ready to see is an act of extreme spiritual violence. Imagine someone is having a terrible nightmare. You, from the outside, see that it's just a dream. You want to shake them awake, but for them, inside the dream, the monster is real, the danger imminent. Your abrupt intervention will not be felt as help, but as an attack, another monster in the midst of their nightmare. This desire to fix others, however well-intentioned, stems from a subtle place of superiority. It assumes you know what's best for the other person, that your timing is the right time for them. But each soul has its own divine curriculum, its own lessons to learn. Struggles, confusion, and even mistakes are essential parts of this learning process. By trying to spare someone from their pain, you may actually be robbing them of the very lesson their soul came here to learn. You become a thief of wisdom, disguised as a guardian angel. Consider the metaphor of the butterfly and the cocoon. A man, seeing a butterfly desperately struggling to break out of its cocoon, decided to help it. With a pair of scissors, he carefully cut the shell, freeing the insect. But the butterfly emerged with a swollen body and shriveled wings, unable to fly. It soon died on the ground. What the man didn't know is that the struggle to break out of the cocoon is what strengthens the butterfly's wings, pumping vital fluid from the body into the wings and preparing it for flight. The struggle wasn't an obstacle, it was the process. Likewise, people need their own struggles. The pressure of hardship is what forges inner strength, resilience, and wisdom. Your help, offered too soon, can create an adult with butterfly wings that never developed. Someone who will remain weak and dependent, unable to fly on their own when life's next storm arrives. True compassion isn't eliminating another person's struggle, but trusting their process and being present, in silence, offering a safe space for them to find their own strength to break out of the cocoon. This restraint, this act of biting your tongue when you most want to speak, requires a patience and trust in the cosmic process that are almost superhuman. It is one of the most difficult tests on the path of awakening. And this understanding leads us directly to one of the deepest and most practical secrets you must learn to keep. A secret that, if revealed, can destroy relationships and build walls where once there were bridges. The image of the butterfly struggling to escape its cocoon is not just a beautiful metaphor. It is a fundamental law of nature and spiritual transformation. Struggle is the mechanism that generates strength. Without pressure, there is no growth. Without challenge, there is no overcoming. Every difficulty we face in life is like a gym workout for our soul. It is there to strengthen us, to develop spiritual muscles we didn't know we had. Pain, confusion, the feeling of being lost. All of this is part of the process of strengthening our wings. When you try to spare someone from this struggle, you are, in effect, saying to the universe, "I know better than you. Your plan for this soul is flawed." It is an act of cosmic arrogance. You interfere in another person's sacred process, believing your intervention is necessary. But the truth is, your premature help may be the greatest disservice you can do. You may alleviate momentary pain, but at the cost of hindering long-term growth, creating a dependency that weakens rather than strengthens. Think about your own moments of greatest growth. They didn't happen when life was easy and comfortable, did they? They arose from the ashes of a broken heart, a job loss, a health crisis, a moment when you felt completely lost. It was the pressure of these situations that forced you to dig deeper, to find inner resources you didn't know you possessed. It was the pain that pushed you out of your comfort zone and set you on the path to awakening. Who would you be to deny someone else that same opportunity? Keeping your insights about others to yourself isn't an act of indifference or coldness. On the contrary, it's the deepest act of love and respect you can offer. It's a vote of confidence in the other person's ability to find their own path. It's honoring the sovereignty of their journey, however tortuous and painful it may seem from your perspective. It's understanding that your role isn't to be the hero of someone else's story, but perhaps, at most, a supporting character offering a glass of water and a listening ear without giving directions. This containment creates a sacred space of acceptance. When someone feels completely accepted by you, with all their flaws and confusion, without feeling like you're trying to fix them, something magical happens. They feel safe enough to begin looking at themselves. Your silent, non-judgmental presence becomes the mirror in which they can finally see themselves clearly. Healing comes not from your words, but from the safe space your silence creates for self-healing to occur. This leads us directly to the first of the 5 forbidden revelations. The first secret an awakened one must guard with the zeal of a treasure guardian. It is the natural consequence of everything we have discussed so far. It is the understanding that certain truths are not yours to give. Pointing out someone's flaws or traumas, even if you see them clearly, will only meet with resistance, denial, and resentment. Truth that is not self-discovered is merely an opinion, a criticism. And the ego, when it feels attacked, builds even higher walls. Your newfound clarity is not a license to operate on another's soul. You are not a psychic surgeon. Your role is that of a patient gardener. You prepare the soil with your acceptance, water it with your compassion, and offer the sunlight of your presence. But you trust that each seed has its own innate intelligence and its own time to blossom. Trying to force the sprout out of the earth before its time is the surest way to kill the plant. And this fundamental understanding is the gateway to the first great secret. We now come to the first great secret. The first truth you must learn to hold in the sanctuary of your heart. Your direct experience of awakening is absolutely non-transferable. This is not a concept to be debated or a philosophy to be taught. It is a seismic event in consciousness, a shift in perception as profound and personal as your own DNA. Trying to put this experience into words is like trying to describe the taste of a mango to someone who only knows salty and bitter. You can use poetry, metaphors, and comparisons, but the fruit's succulent sweetness will remain a mystery. Your experience is a unique treasure, forged in the alchemy of your life. It is the result of every tear you've cried, every laugh you've made, every mistake you've made, and every victory you've celebrated. It is a tapestry woven from the threads of your personal history. By trying to share it, you inevitably reduce it, simplify it, and trivialize it. You transform a sacred, multi-dimensional event into a linear, two-dimensional anecdote. The ocean of your consciousness is forced to fit into the limited glass of language, and in the process, it ceases to be the ocean. Guarding the sanctity of this experience is not an act of selfishness, but of preservation. It's protecting something sacred from the desecration of the outside world. The world of the mind loves to analyze, categorize, and judge. If you share your experience, it will be dissected, compared to others, labeled as real or imaginary, advanced or basic. Your pearl of wisdom will be thrown to the pigs of the intellect, who won't know what to do with it other than trample it and move on. Your most intimate treasure deserves more than that. It deserves to be the silent fuel that illuminates your life from within. By keeping this experience to yourself, you also avoid the deadly trap of becoming the finger pointing to the moon. As the old Zen saying goes, the finger is useful for showing direction, but if you fall in love with the finger, you completely lose sight of the moon. When you talk incessantly about your experience, you become the finger. People, in their search, become fascinated by you, by your story, by your enlightenment. They stop looking to the moon, the universal truth available to all, and start worshipping the finger, their particular manifestation of that truth. Living silently with your experience is the most powerful lesson. Instead of talking about peace, be peace. Instead of preaching about compassion, act with compassion. Instead of describing unity, treat each being as if they were an extension of yourself. Your life becomes the transmission. People may not understand what happened to you, but they will feel it. They will be touched by your energy, by your presence, by the authenticity that radiates from someone who no longer needs to prove anything to anyone. Your being becomes the sermon. This attitude of sacred silence makes room for the next revelation. When you stop focusing on your own past experience, you become more present to the experience of others in the now. You stop being the protagonist of your spiritual story and become a silent witness to the unfolding cosmic drama around you. You realize that your journey was not the main event, but merely a note in the universal symphony of awakening. And this humility is the key to understanding the second secret. Your experience is your engine, not your megaphone. It's the foundation upon which you build your new life, not the trophy you display on your shelf. By guarding it with care and reverence, you allow it to mature within you, deepening its roots and nourishing every aspect of your being. And it is from this solid, silent foundation that you can begin to understand the sanctity of the other's path, which is the heart of the second forbidden revelation. The second secret you should never reveal is the detailed map of your path. As we've seen, your key doesn't open anyone else's door. But the prohibition here goes far beyond simple ineffectiveness. Revealing your method, your 10 steps to enlightenment, not only generates frustration, but violates one of the most sacred principles in the universe, the sovereignty of each soul's journey. Each human being is a unique expression of the divine, with a unique learning curriculum and an inner labyrinth that only they can navigate. No one can do it for them. By positioning yourself as the one who holds the map, you commit an act of spiritual theft. You rob the other person of the joy of discovery, the thrill of finding a clue on their own, the satisfaction of overcoming an obstacle with their own strength. You transform them from a courageous explorer into a mere follower, a tourist on their own spiritual journey. The power they would gain by deciphering their own enigma is lost forever, exchanged for the convenience of following a pre-made path that will lead them nowhere. Consider the difference between a tour guide and a trail master. A tour guide takes you to famous landmarks, takes your photos, tells you well-prepared stories, and returns you to the bus on time. A trail master teaches you how to read nature's signs, find water, and use a compass, and then trusts you to find your own way through the forest. True spiritual service is not being a tour guide who gives all the answers, but being the master who empowers others to ask their own questions and find their own answers. Protecting the secret of your path is the greatest honor you can bestow upon the path of others. It's a vote of confidence that says, I believe in you. I believe in your ability to find your own truth. I trust that the same power that guided me is also guiding you, in its own unique and perfect way. This quiet trust is a gift far more valuable than any advice, technique, or book you can offer. It empowers, while advice often weakens and creates dependency. When you refuse to give the map, you force the other person to look inward. You force them to activate their own inner compass, their intuition. Their initial frustration can transform, over time, into the deepest gratitude, as they realize that you didn't give them a fish, but rather inspired them to learn to fish. Your silence about your method becomes the space where their innate wisdom can finally emerge and be heard, free from the noise of your instructions and expectations. The universe is infinitely creative. There are as many paths to the center as there are souls in the universe. Some get there through devotion, some through intellect, some through service, some through art, and many through a unique combination of all of these. Trying to impose your path on someone else is like telling a bird it should swim or a fish it should fly. It denies the beauty of diversity and the perfection of the cosmic plan for each being, and this is where the terrain becomes truly dangerous. For there is a truth that, if shared carelessly, not only leads a person astray, but can cause their very perception of reality to shatter completely, before they have the framework to deal with it. It is a truth that touches the very nature of the world we see and touch, and that, if revealed too soon, can lead a fragile mind not to liberation, but to an abyss of madness and despair. Up until this point, the secrets we've uncovered have served to protect you and others in the realm of human interactions. We've talked about your experience, your path, and your perception of others. But now, Thoth's wisdom pulls us into much deeper waters. It invites us to question the very nature of the ground we walk on and the air we breathe. After awakening, your perception doesn't just shift slightly, it undergoes a complete reversal. What once seemed solid, real, and unquestionable, like the table in front of you or the walls of your room, begins to feel strangely different, less dense, more like a projection, a vivid dream, or an incredibly sophisticated computer simulation running a program called reality. You begin to perceive the invisible threads that connect everything. Synchronicities cease to be coincidences and become the language of the universe speaking directly to you. A book that falls open to the exact page you needed to read. A conversation you overhear that answers a question you've had on your mind for days. The dance of cause and effect reveals itself not as a straight line, but as a complex, interconnected web where everything affects everything else. For you, this realization is supreme freedom. It's proof that you are not a victim of chance, but an active participant in a cosmic dance. It's the understanding that reality is malleable and responds to your consciousness. But try explaining this to someone still firmly anchored in the materialistic worldview. Try telling a friend that the chair they're sitting in isn't actually solid, but a vibrational field of energy that their consciousness interprets as a chair. The most likely reaction won't be enlightenment, but fear. It's like telling a character in a video game that they're just a collection of codes and pixels. The unprepared mind doesn't have an operating system to process this information. It short circuits because this truth threatens the very foundation upon which their entire identity and security were built. This revelation, delivered without due care, can push a person into an abyss of nihilism and dissociation. If nothing is real, then nothing matters. If everything is a dream, why should I care about my work, my family, my own life? The mind, when trying to intellectually understand something that can only be experienced, can fragment. What for you is a liberation that connects you more deeply with life, for someone else can become a justification for apathy, depression, or even destructive behavior. The truth, without the maturity to integrate it, becomes poison. This is why ancient guardians of knowledge, such as Thoth, were so insistent on protecting this secret. They knew this was a highly potent medicine, which could only be administered in minimal doses and only to patients who had already demonstrated the strength and stability to receive it. Revealing this truth frivolously is not an act of wisdom, but of recklessness. It is toying with another person's sanity in the name of your own need to share how profound you have become. The truly wise know that the solidity of the world is a necessary illusion for most souls on their journey of learning. They understood that the perception of reality as a flux is the result, not the cause, of awakening. It is a natural consequence of deep inner work, not a concept to be learned from a book or a conversation. You cannot give someone the experience of non-solidity. You can only live your life from this understanding, and your peace and flexibility in the face of circumstances will become the silent teaching. Your ability to navigate the dream with grace and power becomes proof that there is something more, without you needing to say a single word about the nature of reality. And this containment takes us directly to the heart of the third great secret. It's not just about not talking about the nature of reality, but about understanding why this truth is so dangerous and how it should be handled. It's the revelation that underpins the very idea of the matrix, the illusion of Maya, but which, if misinterpreted, can destroy worlds instead of liberating them. And here we come to the third secret that should never be revealed casually. The truth that the world you perceive as solid and external is, at its core, a projection of consciousness, an illusion. The Hindus called it Maya. Plato described it in the allegory of the cave. Quantum physics today calls it a field of potentialities that collapses into reality through observation. All the great wisdom traditions, in one way or another, point to the same shocking truth. The world is not what it seems. It is not a fixed stage where you are merely an actor. It is a mirror that reflects what is within you. Trying to explain this to someone who hasn't even glimpsed this truth is an act of disguised cruelty. Imagine telling a mother grieving the loss of a child that her pain isn't real. Or someone struggling to pay the bills that their scarcity is just an illusion. Intellectually, they might agree, but emotionally, you're invalidating the entirety of their experience. You're not liberating them, you're attacking them. Their pain is real. Their hunger is real. The human experience, within the illusion, is 100% real to those who experience it. Denying this isn't spirituality. It's a lack of compassion. The purpose of understanding the illusory nature of reality is not to deny life, but rather to free oneself from the tyranny of circumstance. It is to understand that if the world is a reflection, then the key to changing the world lies not in fighting the reflection in the mirror, but in changing the face that produces it. Change is always internal, but this is a realization that must blossom from the inside out. When imposed from the outside in apoish, it becomes a cold, lifeless dogma, a weapon the ego can use to feel superior or to disconnect from life and its challenges, rather than engaging with them in a new way. Keeping this secret, therefore, doesn't mean lying or pretending the world is solid. It means interacting with the world as if it were solid, out of respect for those who still need this structure to function. It means paying your bills, obeying traffic laws, and crying at a funeral, all while a part of you maintains a serene smile, knowing that it's all a grand divine game, a cosmic play. You learn to dance with the illusion without being captured by it. You play the game with complete sincerity, but without forgetting that it is a game. And this is an art that takes a lifetime to master. What happens when you reveal this truth to an unprepared mind? It can fall into two dangerous extremes. The first is nihilism, the belief that nothing matters, leading to apathy and despair. The second, and perhaps more subtle, is toxic positivity. The attempt to use this truth to deny and repress negative emotions and experiences, creating a facade of enlightenment that is, in fact, a form of dissociation. In both cases, the truth was used not to integrate but to disintegrate the psyche. The medicine, administered in the wrong dose, became poison. Wisdom lies in embodying truth, not preaching it. Your freedom from life's drama becomes the lesson. People will see that you face the same storms they do, but somehow, your boat doesn't capsize. You aren't swept away by the waves of fear and anxiety. They won't know why, but they will be drawn to your stability. They will want to know the secret to your peace, not the secret of the universe. And by focusing on peace, they will begin the inner journey that will eventually lead them to their own discovery of the nature of reality. And this understanding of reality as a game takes us directly to the next level of revelation, one that challenges not the physics of the world, but the very foundation of our society, our system of morality, of right and wrong. For if the world is a game, what about the rules we were told we had to follow to be good? From the moment we are born, we are instilled in a complex system of rules. Don't do this. It's wrong. Do that. It's right. Be a good boy. Don't be a bad girl. Our society, our culture, and our religions are built on a foundation of moral codes, a set of do's and don'ts that serve as the glue that holds social order together. These rules give us a sense of security, a map for navigating the complexities of human interactions. They tell us who we are and how we should behave to be accepted, loved, and ultimately to survive. However, as the awakening deepens, one of the most shocking and disorienting realizations is that all these rules, without exception, are human constructs. They are not absolute truths etched in stone by the universe. They are agreements, conventions, games we agree to play so that life in society is possible. What is considered good in one culture may be evil in another. What was a virtue 100 years ago may be a crime today. You realize that morality is relative, not absolute. And with this insight comes the liberating and terrifying realization that you are not intrinsically obligated to follow any of these rules. Now, imagine the danger of announcing this freedom to the world. Imagine arriving at a family dinner and declaring, "I am beyond good and evil." Right and wrong are just illusions. To the conventional mind, which relies on these external rules to guide its behavior and curb its darkest impulses, this declaration sounds like a harbinger of anarchy, chaos, and danger. The first question that will arise in their minds will be, if you don't believe in rules, what's stopping you from stealing, lying, or killing to get what you want? They fail to understand that what replaces external rules is not a void of selfishness, but something infinitely more powerful and reliable, an internal moral compass, born not of fear, but of clarity. They think of rules as the dams that hold back the wild river of human nature. They fail to understand that you didn't demolish the dam to let the river flood the city. You realize that you are the river itself, and that the river's essential nature is not to destroy, but to flow harmoniously toward the ocean. Your morality hasn't disappeared. It's simply changed source. Society needs people who believe in external rules. The system depends on this to maintain itself. A person who operates from an internal compass, who cannot be blackmailed by fear of punishment or seduced by the promise of reward, is uncontrollable. They become an unpredictable element, a free agent within the matrix, and nothing is more threatening to a system based on control than an individual who has found true freedom. Therefore, this truth has always been hidden, or when revealed, it was quickly distorted and transformed into its opposite. To declare yourself beyond good and evil is to invite distrust, fear, and isolation. People will project their own fears, their own shadows, onto you. They will see in your freedom the license for their own repressed impulses and judge you accordingly. You will be called arrogant, dangerous, a sociopath. Your attempt to share a profound freedom will be interpreted as a threat to the very fabric of civilization. And, once again, your sharing, born of liberation, will create more separation and conflict. That's why the fourth secret is one of the most important to keep. It's not about hiding your freedom, but about living it with discretion and wisdom. It's about understanding that your new morality, born of unity, is incomprehensible to those who still live in the duality of right and wrong. And this understanding leads us to the precise nature of this new internal compass, what truly guides the behavior of an awakened being. And so we come to the fourth forbidden revelation, your liberation from conventional moral codes. This is the secret that your moral compass no longer comes from a holy book, a commandment, or a social law, but from a much deeper and more infallible place, the direct, visceral vision of unity. The morality of the awakened is not a choice. It is an inevitable consequence. When the illusion of separation dissolves, even for an instant, you realize an unshakable truth. Hurting another is, literally, at a fundamental level of existence, hurting yourself. There is no difference. The other is another version of you. Compassion ceases to be a virtue to be cultivated with effort, something you should feel. It becomes the natural, spontaneous response to a world from which you are no longer separate. It's like feeling pain when you hit your own finger with a hammer. You don't choose to feel pain, you simply feel it, because the finger is you. Likewise, when you see suffering in another being, you feel it as your own, because the boundary between me and them has become porous, transparent. Kindness is no longer a moral choice. It is the inevitable flow of a heart that has recognized itself in all other hearts. Does this mean you'll go around breaking all the rules? Quite the opposite. The awakened learn to follow social conventions, not because they believe in their ultimate validity, but for the sake of simplicity, efficiency, and harmony. It's like a master actor who knows he's in a play. He knows the scenery is fake and the lines are scripted, but he plays his role with complete dedication and presence because it serves the beauty of the play as a whole. You pay your taxes, stop at red lights, and treat others with courtesy, not out of fear of a fine or punishment, but because you understand that these conventions help the flow of life run more smoothly for everyone. You learn to follow the spirit of the law, even though you know the letter of the law is only a temporary convention. The spirit of the law is almost always about harmony, respect, and doing no harm. Your inner compass, the perception of unity, is perfectly aligned with this spirit. You become the embodiment of true morality, one that needs no external oversight because internal oversight is absolute and constant. You don't cease to be ethical, you become the very source of ethics, and this is a freedom that the rule-based mind simply cannot conceive. This is a freedom that cannot be taught in sermons or lectures. It can only be discovered in the depths of your own being. Trying to explain it is futile. People will only hear what their minds can process, and the dualistic mind can only understand the absence of rules as a license for chaos. They fail to see that what emerges is a much higher, organic order. Therefore, you guard this truth not as a secret, but as wisdom. You demonstrate it with your actions, not proclaim it with your words. Your integrity becomes your silent testimony. Your life becomes an example of how it is possible to be profoundly good, ethical, and trustworthy, without the need for external threats or promises. You become living proof that the essential nature of human beings, when free from the distortions of ego and fear, is not evil, but kindness, cooperation, and love. You don't need to talk about being beyond good and evil. People will simply feel your unconditional kindness and be transformed by it, without even knowing why. And this understanding that your inner freedom doesn't make you a renegade, but rather an exemplary citizen of the cosmos, leads us to the last and perhaps most misunderstood secret of all. A secret that concerns not reality or morality, but the very fruits of the spiritual journey, the powers that can arise and the deadly temptation they bring with them. As you deepen your journey and clear the channels of your perception, something curious begins to happen. Your connection to the fabric of the universe becomes stronger, and certain side effects may emerge. These are abilities or perceptions that seem almost supernatural to the ordinary mind. Your intuition may become so acute that it borders on premonition. You simply know things without knowing how. You may develop the ability to sense the energy of a place or a person, perceiving what is unspoken, what is hidden beneath the surface. The synchronicities in your life may become so frequent and perfect that they defy any logical explanation. These aren't powers you acquire, like buying a new skill. They are the natural fruits of your alignment. They are the innate capacities of human consciousness that have lain dormant beneath layers of conditioning, fear, and disbelief. When the static in your mind subsides, you begin to hear the subtle music of the universe. You begin to perceive the symbolic language with which life communicates. These gifts are simply proof that you are becoming more sensitive to reality, as it is, not as we've been told it was. And herein lies the final and most subtle trap of the spiritual ego. The temptation to share these powers, to talk about them, to demonstrate them, is immense. After all, this would be the definitive proof of your transformation. It would silence all skeptics. If you could guess what someone is thinking or predict an event, no one would be able to doubt the validity of your journey. You would be seen as special, powerful, a true master. The ego loves this idea. It's its last attempt to hijack your journey and turn it into a spectacle for its own glorification. But giving into this temptation is a fatal mistake. It's like a scientist who discovers a powerful new form of energy and, instead of studying it and using it for the good of humanity, uses it to perform magic tricks at parties. You take something sacred, a direct channel of communication with the divine, and trivialize it, turning it into entertainment. You demote it from a tool of service and navigation to a mere adornment for your ego. And the moment you do this, the purity of the channel begins to corrupt. The static returns, and the power diminishes. The ancient masters knew this. They understood that true power never announces itself. It operates silently, behind the scenes, like the root of a great tree that sustains everything from the invisible. Power that needs to be displayed is not true power. It is insecurity disguised as strength. It is the need for external validation, the same need that kept you trapped in the matrix in the first place. The ego cycle has simply found a new and more sophisticated way to perpetuate itself, now disguised as spiritual gifts. These abilities, when they emerge, should be treated with the utmost reverence and discretion. They are sacred tools. Your heightened intuition isn't meant to win the lottery or impress your friends. It's meant to guide your decisions, to help you know when to speak and when to remain silent, to allow you to serve others in subtle and anonymous ways, often without them even realizing they've been helped. It's a power that should be wielded with the precision of a scalpel, not the ostentation of a cannon. And this absolute discretion brings us to the fifth and final forbidden revelation. It is the culmination of all this wisdom. It is the final seal that protects your journey from the corruption of the ego. It is the understanding that your greatest spiritual treasures are those that no one, other than you and the universe, need ever know exist. The fifth and final secret that should never be revealed is your spiritual gifts and abilities. These abilities are not badges of honor to be displayed on your spiritual chest. They are not proof of your progress or a certificate of enlightenment. They are sacred tools, entrusted to you by the universe for a specific purpose, your own navigation and, only occasionally, for a silent and anonymous act of service. Displaying them, talking about them, using them to gain status or validation is the quickest way to lose them or corrupt their purity. It is the ego's ultimate trap, its attempt to transform the sacred into a spectacle. Think about it. If you truly had the ability to heal with your hands, would you open a clinic and place ads in the newspaper, or would you walk the world and alleviate suffering discreetly, without anyone knowing who was responsible? True power doesn't seek credit. True compassion doesn't need recognition. The sun doesn't demand applause for shining. It simply shines. Likewise, when these gifts manifest, they should be integrated into your life as naturally and silently as your own breathing. They become part of who you are, not something you do to impress. Thoth and the ancient masters knew that self-proclaimed power is weak, dependent on the reactions of others. True power is self-sufficient. It operates behind the scenes of reality, moving the pieces of the cosmic game subtly and invisibly. Using your gifts to impress others is like using $1 million telescope, capable of seeing other galaxies, to spy on your neighbor's house. You take an instrument of transcendence and use it for the ego's pettiest purposes. You diminish the sacred. You profanate the sacred. And in return for what? A few moments of empty admiration. True mastery lies in possessing these gifts without anyone needing to know you have them. It's knowing you could intervene, but choosing not to, trusting the greater process. It's using your intuition to remove yourself from a dangerous situation, rather than announcing the danger to everyone and playing the prophet. It's feeling a friend's pain and silently sending them love and compassion. rather than lecturing them on what they need to do to heal. It's a path of quiet power, anonymous service, and profound humility. When you talk about your gifts, you externalize them. You separate them from yourself and transform them into an object, something to be analyzed, coveted, or feared by others. This creates a barrier. People will no longer connect with you, but with your reputation, with their idea of your powers. You cease to be a human being on a journey and become a phenomenon to be studied. And this separation is the opposite of the goal of awakening, which is unity and authentic connection. Keeping this secret is the ultimate test of ego detachment. It's your ability to hold the most precious treasure in your hands and not feel the need to show it to anyone. It's finding your fulfillment not in the admiration of others, but in the quiet effectiveness of your service and the beauty of your own connection with the divine. It's understanding that these gifts aren't yours to begin with. They belong to the universe, flowing through you. You are the channel, not the source. And a good channel remains clean, discreet, and unobstructed. And so, with the understanding of these 5 forbidden secrets, an inevitable question arises. If we must remain silent about our experience, our path, our insights, the nature of reality, and our gifts, then what is the purpose of all this? Are we destined for a life of silent isolation? The answer is no. And it leads us to the ultimate purpose of all this silence, the true form of wisdom transmission. If we can't share secrets, what's the point? Silence about these 5 truths isn't isolation, but the discovery of a much more powerful form of transmission. It's not the end of communication, but the beginning of true communion. Your silence creates the empty space for the most powerful force of all to manifest: your presence. Your journey doesn't transform you into a teacher, but into an energy field. Your deepest teaching lies not in what you say, but in who you have become. The world is drowning in cheap words and philosophies, but the energy of a human being at peace with themselves is the rarest and most valuable thing there is. People may not understand your logic, but they will feel your peace. They may not believe your story, but they will be transformed by your compassion. Your life becomes the message. You don't need to hand out maps when you can become the lighthouse itself. A lighthouse doesn't shout at ships or give directions. It simply shines, steady in the darkness. Your presence becomes that point of light, a silent invitation for others to use this reference point to find their way. You don't guide anyone. You simply illuminate the environment so they can find their way. This is the great paradox. By keeping secrets, you reveal them in their purest form. By not speaking about your experience, you embody it. By not sharing your map, you force others to become explorers. By not pointing out others' flaws, you create space for self-healing. Your silence becomes your greatest eloquence, a direct transmission from being to being, operating beneath the noise of the mind. There will be times to speak, but your speech will be different. When a genuine seeker appears, you will not give orders, but suggestions. You will speak not as a teacher, but as a beggar telling another where to find bread. Your sharing will be an act of humble service, not self-aggrandizement. And this understanding leads us to the final practice: how to integrate this wisdom into real life, into the act of being in each moment. Thoth's ultimate wisdom is this: the journey doesn't end on a stage, but dissolves into everyday life. The goal is not to become a master with followers, but an awakened human being living an ordinary life in an extraordinary way. The ultimate practice is to embody these 5 secrets, not just understand them. It is to live awakening in silence, finding the sacred in dirty dishes and in patience in traffic. The greatest secret is that awakening doesn't make you special. It finally makes you human. It frees you from the burden of trying to be someone, of proving your worth, of seeking external validation. You simply relax into your own being, discovering that the treasure you sought outside has always been within your heart. Your search ends not with discovery, but with recognition. The journey takes you nowhere, for the destination has always been the starting point. It is a return home, to the radical simplicity of the present moment. From this place, you trust that the tide of consciousness is rising for everyone, and that each will awaken in their own time. Your only task is to keep your boat steady, serving as a silent point of light, without interfering with the tide of others. You learn to play the cosmic game with a smile, knowing that everything is a divine dance. The distinction between awakened and unawakened disappears. There is only the process of awakening unfolding in infinite ways, and you play your role with total dedication, but with the lightness of someone who knows they are within a great and beautiful dream. You play seriously, but don't take yourself too seriously. Therefore, the final invitation isn't in an ancient book or an external secret. The key has always been with you. It's in the living silence of this very moment, in the sensation of your breath, in the awareness of being alive, here and now. This is the only portal that exists, the only door that matters. The question is no longer searching for the key, but finally having the courage to use it. If you've made it this far, you're no longer the same person who started this video. You've felt the call and understood the power of silence. To let me know you're part of the small group that made it to the end, leave the phrase in the comments, "My silence is my power." If this message resonated with you and you feel called to help this channel grow and share more content like this, there's a more direct way to contribute. In the first pinned comment, you'll find a link to support our work. Any help you can give is immensely important to me and the future of the channel. But understand, just by sticking around until the end, you've already given us an incredible amount of help. If you feel someone needs to hear this, please share this video. And before you go, your journey doesn't have to stop here. I've put together a special video for you, a logical next step to delve deeper into what we've discovered today. Don't leave yet. Just click on the video that's currently playing on your screen, and we'll meet you there.